Hello and welcome to the Panoptic Gamers podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Aaron, and I'm here with my co-host for today's show, Dan Tobin. Hey, Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So today is our very first show, and I believe we have some great topics to cover, don't you, Dan?
I think so.
All right. Today we'll be talking about the Arma game series, Arma, Arma 2, Arma 3, and video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good series. Video game immersion and how it affects the gaming industry. We will be discussing some current and upcoming improvements for immersion and the gaming experience. So let's jump right in, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, so Dan, tell me what kind of experience you've had with the Arma series.
I started playing back in Operation Flashpoint, which I think was for, I don't even know if it was on PC. I think it was on PlayStation that I played it the first time, which was pretty groundbreaking, having levels that big back in the 90s. And then I didn't pick it back up again until Arma 2, which was basically just to get into the DayZ series. And then really got involved with some of the clans during Arma 2 and then progressed on to Arma 3.
Okay, I know that I've played around with Arma 2 and Arma 3. I started getting into Arma 2 with actually the DayZ add-on, mostly because that was what drew me to that game. But since you had some experience, I know that you brought me into just playing the vanilla Arma series. So I played a little bit of that with you guys, with some friends as well as you. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I know that for me, Arma 2 was a little bit buggy and not too. I mean, it was, the realism was there, but the graphics, maybe it was just because of my computer. I don't know, but I know that when I played, it just didn't have the right movements, and it wasn't very fluid to me.
Yeah, the animations in Arma 2 were really, really slow. It was really hard to keep up that fast-paced, combat that you expect from, a shooter of today's caliber. But I think Arma 3 did a lot better with their animations and definitely cleared that up. Made it more fluid, made it feel more like a Battlefield type game as far as the movement goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that with Arma 3, when I started playing that, I bought that one right when it came out. And I really enjoyed it much more than Arma 2. It did have a lot better fluid actions and fluid movements to it, as well as a lot more maneuverability when it comes to crouching and going prone, and leaning to your left and right and just moving alongside that.
Yeah, I think one of the big things in Arma 2 compared to Arma 3 was the fact that you have those like incremental movements where if you want to just slightly peek up over the top of a window, you can hit that, in between zone between crouching and standing. There's the high crouch and then there's the low stand. So you have, a couple different varieties there of where your guy's at. If you want to stay behind cover, you can do that a little bit better now.
Yeah. I know that in Arma 2 there was like only 3 stances. There was prone, there was crouching, and there was standing up. But I know that one of the major improvements that I saw that in the change notes and the just the general vibe that they put out was that they improved that drastically by adding like five more stances essentially.
Yeah.
So like you have standing, you have like standing crouch, and then you have a crouch, and then you have a prone crouch, and then you have a prone, and then you have something behind that where you like go backwards. You're like sitting down really low or something like that.
Yeah, they've got sitting, and then they've got like a prone shooting between the legs if you have a pistol, and then they have like an urban prone where you're on your side if you need to like get the side of a truck or something where you're behind the wheel well, but you can still lean out and shoot.
Yeah. It really adds to the realism, to be able to do that in a game.
Yeah.
And I know it's very difficult to kind of code that stuff in, and alongside like other aspects. I mean, they could just as well have left that out and put something, spent their time on something else that that might be more, I guess, visible to the player, noticeable. But I think that really attest to their ability to throw realism at this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as Bohemian Interactive, they always try to add as much content as possible, and they've always been really big behind their modding community. So they've given the modders the tools to create new animations if they need them. I mean, there's animations in the game for carrying people, even though they never implemented a carrying a person system. But
Oh,
now
really?
there's mods out there that you can actually download, and even scripts that people make that uh, you can actually go over, and if someone dies, they go into like a comatose or down state, and then you can drag them behind cover, or if they're really wounded and far away, you can pick them up, throw them over your shoulders, and run them back.
That's wild. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's tons of mods out there. There's tons of scripts that, do that kind of stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those games that is just, they said the company was like, hey guys, go for it. If you want to add it, mod the hell out of it. So I really love that about games. I know that when I was younger, I played a lot of games that you were able to actually program your own mods. And I love doing that. Like I think I played Morrowind and I modded the shit out of that.
Yeah. It definitely adds a lot. I mean,
yeah.
There's a huge community for Arma right now, so they have mods for basically everything. One thing we've been trying out with my gaming clan is the XMed mod, which basically gives you I don't know if in DayZ they have all the different medical things where you have to give people morphine and epinephrine and bandage wounds, tourniquet if it's bleeding, if they cut an artery. So they have all that in this XMed mod.
Wow.
And it can even make good teamwork. So if you're playing the game, usually when I play it, I play co-op against the computer on these massive maps, and somebody will get hit, and then one person's doing CPR trying to revive them while the other person's attaining, wounds and making sure that the person, doesn't bleed it out, giving them drugs if they need it. So it can be like a huge team effort to try and get a guy up before his blood runs out.
Wow. So you could really get a realistic large scale operation going, I guess, huh? You could have like like stations set up for like medic stations and stuff like that. You bring your wounded in, and
yeah, we have
that's
in our
pretty
group
wild.
we have like 50 people on the server, and we'll play against 200 or more AI. And so when someone comes down, we have people on standby that just run medevac helicopters, and they'll come in, land. We'll bring them over to the helicopter once they're stable and throw them in, and hopefully they can get back to base, and we'll have medics back there that'll actually heal them up as well.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Definitely adds to the realism.
Yeah. Speaking of scripts, I understand that you've been doing a lot of work on your own kind of scripts. You wanna touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I can do that. I mean, I program for a living, so having a game that I can actually use some of that and make some fun stuff definitely cures the itch, I guess, for making games. And so one of the ones I made was the Hearts and Minds script, which I'm still developing. And what that does is it tries to emulate civilian opinion in the game. So right now, all the civilians, you place them on the map, you throw them in a city, and they're more obstructions. They kind of walk around, you try not to shoot them, but if you do, there's no real penalty for it. And so I decided to make a mod that would give each civilian on the map, give them their own opinion, and then depending upon if you shoot them or if you bring them supplies, it changes their opinion in the game. And then they either, if it gets to an extreme on one end or the other, they can start either turning away from you, so they might turn to like suicide bombers or just start picking up guns and start shooting. And it starts affecting the hearts and minds of other people. So you can actually do full hearts and minds campaigns where you have to go in and try and change the opinion of people in a certain town. And if you start dropping mortar fire on their town and blowing up buildings or, blowing people up, then when you enter that town, they might be hostile.
Right, and does that affect like neighboring towns as well?
Yeah, so it goes out from whoever got hit. So if you hit him out in the middle of the field and he's in between two towns, it hits everyone inside of a certain radius. It's supposed to emulate them hearing about it or witnessing it.
Okay.
So you can kind of change that up in the configs for the script. But as soon as you put it on the server, as soon as someone gets hit, it bubbles out from whoever got hurt and or had something good. It's not all just negative. You could bring supplies into a town, like medical supplies, and as soon as that enters a certain area, you could have it set up where it affects everyone positively and starts winning people over to fight for your side.
That's cool. And now, are you able to, like, if you say befriend one town and then you have enemies in another town, can you like recruit them to fight on your side to fight a neighboring town that might be malicious?
Yeah, so the way it is right now, they don't actually join your squad, but if they get to a certain level, either pro op 4, pro blue 4, they'll join that team and pick up arms, and then if they see anyone on the enemy team, they'll start attacking.
Oh wow, okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Were there any other like mods that you were working on?
That's the main one. I've been doing a lot of mission editing for my gaming group. We just finished a huge training map with a complete rifle range that kind of follows the NRA format of shooting. So you can have full rifle matches, find out what score people shoot at, and then we use that as a way to figure out who's worthwhile joining and who needs a little bit more work, so we can kind of train them up a little bit before we actually take them into the clan.
Okay, cool. Sounds pretty extensive.
Yeah, it's got a facility for just about everything: helicopters, airplanes, close quarter combat, sniping, boats. Just about everything you can do in the game, you can train someone how to do it on this map. So it's been 70 hours worth of work, but it's finally coming together.
Nice. Have you played with your clan a lot on these maps?
Yeah, we're just in the intro stages, so I just finished it up, I think, last weekend. So now we're trying to get people to understand how to do the trainings, and then we're going to start rolling new trainees through, I think, next week.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Realism is very big with the Arma series, and because it's it's got the bullet drop off and the iron sights and all that fun stuff. I know that Realism is a huge part of immersion in games.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially if you're going to be immersed in, say, like a movie or something, you wanna be able to believe what you're seeing is real, and that's what draws you in. That's what brings the immersion, to happen. Mm-hmm. So because of that, it seems that Arma is one of the essentially a perfect example of a game where you can become very immersed in.
Yeah, they've been trying to push that for a while now. Technology is obviously getting better, but they've had things like the IR tracker headset, where it tracks your head movement and relays that into the game. So you don't have to spin around in circles to look behind you. You can try to just tilt your head, and it does some calculations to figure out where you're looking at in the game.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot better options right now. They have stuff like the Oculus Rift coming out that's going to be pretty huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely see using the Oculus Rift in Arma or in any first-person game, for that matter. I know that one of the biggest problems that they've had is that you can look around, it tracks your head movements and everything, but when it comes to your extremities, they're nowhere to be found, and that can pull away from the immersion in many games. I know that in some of the beginning stages when they first put out the development pack, they had like some sort of like first-person shooter kind of demo, and it was just a floating gun, and you were looking around, and there was a floating gun in front of you, and you would obviously use your a controller to fire and reload and so forth. But I mean, come on, let's face it, a floating gun.
No,
it's not gonna work. It's just gonna pull away from the realism in the game. So I know that there was a couple videos put out recently, I think. I'd have to look at what the particular release date of those videos were, but they started a Kickstarter for this Control VR motion capture. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put the links in the in the comments section for this podcast. But essentially, they started this Kickstarter to tie in a Control VR motion capture for animation and movement for your hands, as well as and it ties into the Oculus Rift.
Oh, that's awesome.
So essentially, you're looking at what you're looking at in the game, but you're also the Control VR is taking in input from sort of like the Control Glove from NES, I think it was, and it ties in those finger movements and the arm movements and everything based on where your hands are in relation to the chest. Obviously, it has to be calibrated properly, otherwise it won't work properly. But essentially, it ties all that data in, and you can actually see your hands in the virtual reality that you're in the VR.
Now,
so
can you interact with objects in the world with that?
Yeah, you can. In the video, they show like the guys playing beer pong or like picking up objects and throwing them at each other.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's quite funny. I really wish you guys will enjoy the video and see what they do. But it's essentially like a sandbox that they mess around in and throw stuff around. And
that's cool.
They have like this table of cheeseburgers, and one of them goes over and picks one up because one of the other guys is having trouble picking things up with his hands.
Yep.
And he takes the cheeseburger and he's like, "Oh, you want this? You want this?" And he like goes over to the ledge and just drops it off. It was so funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, so I can definitely see how this would tie into video games like Arma and other, again, first-person games that would benefit from this kind of virtual reality.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got to try it out at PAX East. The not the virtual arms, but the Oculus Rift, and it blew my mind. I mean, they had me sit in a chair, and then you put this little headset on, and it gives you like full 3D vision. I felt like I was sitting in a living room. I could turn my head, and it tracked my head movement. So I ended up looking to my left, and I saw another dude sitting next to me. Now, it was a 3D model. It wasn't the actual guy that was sitting next to me to play this game, but it felt like, okay, I'm in a living room, and there's a guy there. And after a couple seconds, my mind just accepted that I was no longer in this giant convention hall. I was sitting in a living room with a game controller in my hand, and I was about to go play a video game. And so when the game started, you look across the room and there's a big TV. So they say you're about to play a video game, and I'm like, sweet. So we're all watching the TV, and then all of a sudden these two little anime dudes appear on top of the table with like a sword and a shield, and they're like, all right, fight. And so you're watching these little two anime dudes. They're knocking over Jenga sets. They're cutting up the couch. The guy next to me actually was so immersed in the game with the headset on that he ended up screaming when I jumped into his lap with my little anime dude because he thought he was actually going to get attacked. So it's definitely an insane experience. I can tell you all about it, but until you actually get the headset on and try it out, you don't really understand how detached you become from like the real world when you put the headset on.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I tried it out at a buddy of mine's place. He had the developer's kit, so it wasn't fully fleshed out yet, and it was some of the developer games that you can play. I mean, they're not games per se; they're just sandboxy things that kind of showcase some of the things that it can do.
Yep.
But it still gives you a taste for what is to come. I know that the developer kit wasn't really you could still see the edges of the pixels, and you can kind of see all that kind of stuff. So it was almost like you were looking through a mesh screen at things, but it was very, like, you definitely got the feeling that you were in a 3D environment, that you were inside that environment. And I know that when you see videos online, like YouTube videos of people using the VR, it shows that like two-sided view, one of the left eye and one of the right eye, and it's all very bubbled and fish-eyed, but that's not what it looks like.
No, not at all.
It looks a lot more real, and it's one of those things that you have to experience in order to get the full benefit and the full enjoyment out of something like that.
Yeah, it definitely gives you that depth of field. Like, you could tell how, like, if someone asked you how far away is that object from you, you could tell them, and you wouldn't even think twice about it. The
Yeah.
only time I really lost immersion was when I looked down at my legs in the game, which they had
Yeah.
models holding the controller, and my mind like freaked out. It's like, wait, those aren't your legs. This isn't real. This isn't real.
Yeah. One of the biggest things for me was the movement. Like when you're moving in real life,
Mhm.
your sense of balance is tied into your location awareness. And when you move in the Oculus Rift, it's almost like you're moving, but you don't feel like you're moving. It's one of those things where like also say you're in a helicopter or something and you flip upside down, you're
Yeah,
not going to feel that feeling of being upside down because you're physically not upside down. So your body doesn't know how to react to that fully. So you end up your brain ends up getting sick, you know? Like
yeah,
you end up getting queasy because of that. And I think that's part of it. But yeah, I agree. That I mean, there's obviously a lot to consider when dealing with full immersion and virtual reality, and tricking your body into thinking that you're somewhere else, and it's a huge hurdle to overcome.
yep.
But I definitely see down the pipeline, you know, technology advancing far enough that that'll be taken care of.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know they have there's some guy that makes a treadmill that you can walk on in all three dimensions. You kind of harness yourself in around the waist, and you can sit down in it if you want to sit down, like if you're driving a car. But if you walk on it, it translates that into direction and movement.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that, and he had like this dome, like a 360 view, like a 360 view
I'll see if
screen.
I can find the video. No,
Yeah,
it was another guy. He had the Oculus Rift headset on, and then he had I think they were Wii controllers. And then he was on this treadmill that he had made, and it's just like a piece. It's like a circular disc of like traction-free stuff, and you just wear socks while you're using it, and
okay.
your socks slip across the surface, um, and so you can literally run as fast as you want. I saw him playing Skyrim that way, and it looked amazing. He
Oh
could look
wow.
around, he could walk, and then he had the two sticks to control his left arm and his right arm.
Okay.
So it was pretty insane. I'll see if I can find a link to that as well. We can
Yeah,
throw that in the
yeah,
description.
we'll post that below too.
Um,
Yeah, so yeah, I could definitely see where this is going in the future. I know that you could even program it to reload your gun when you move your hands a certain way, or pick a bandage out of your pocket and apply that to yourself and fix yourself up. With all the ability to hitbox, you could have you get shot in the leg or something, and you got to take a bandage out of your pocket and like wrap your leg around or something like that, and that would definitely add to the realism of the game.
yeah, no, I'm extremely excited to see once this stuff comes out where it goes, because as soon as somebody actually makes something, the the gaming community and the technology community around the world just instantly gobble it up and start adding to it. They just need
Absolutely.
that kind of stepping off point.
Absolutely, and like crowdsourcing helps immensely with that, especially like Kickstarter and funding sites like that to just throw money at at something like this and essentially get it rolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So do you see this like where do you see this trend going? Do you see a whole full body suit, or what kind of things are you looking at seeing in the future?
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly where it'll go. I think they're on the right track. I mean, they still got a little ways to go with the headset just to get that part of the virtual reality to work. Um, I think they're doing really good job with motion tracking. It's really going to come down to how do you make people feel like they're in the world, and every single time you find something, how do you make that as believable as possible? Now, I don't know if we need to get into the point where like they used to have something for I think it was for PlayStation. It was like a vest you put on, and when you got shot, it would like zap you.
Oh,
I
really?
I don't know if we need to continue down that road.
Talk about force feedback, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it was like a rumble pad or something inside the vest, and whenever you got hit in like a fighting game or something, it would like rumble. to let you know you got hit.
Yeah.
So you got like that physical shock of something happening to you, whether it was you got into a car crash or whatever. And then we've had peripherals for games forever. We've had driving, we've had the steering wheel, and we've had sticks for flight simulators. I think simulation games like like Arma or like some of these flight simulators, helicopter simulators, that's I think where it's really going to take off first. The first person shooter area is probably going to be pretty big, but I mean, I know people are making movies with the Oculus Rift now. So just besides video games, there's a huge market for virtual reality once they finally get all the kinks out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can already foresee a bunch of issues coming up too, like laws that'll have to be made for virtual reality kind of stuff, like certain like PG-13 ratings and stuff like that, especially when it comes to the realism.
Yeah.
Because playing a game where you get shot and bloodied and everything like that, just on the screen is one thing, but when you're visually witnessing it and it's blurring the lines between what's real and what's not, that can have a huge effect on your psyche as a human being. So I could even foresee a lot of legal stuff coming from this kind of stuff, unfortunately too. There's going to be a lot of people probably claiming PTSD or something like that from going under heavy fire in Arma 3, or Arma 4 for that matter. Yep. But so I can definitely see some issues arising from it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I took the headset off, it took me a good, minute or two to actually realize that, oh, I'm actually not inside a living room. That's how realistic it got by the time I was done with the demo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once you start playing these games, if you played them for an extended period of time, it might take a little bit to actually get yourself out of that mindset of, oh, this is the real world.
Yeah.
Especially when graphics the way they are. I mean, playing some of these games in something like the CryEngine that Crysis was made with, where the graphics are so photorealistic.
It could take a little realistic.
While.
The graphics can be insane, especially with the amount they're getting developed nowadays. It just gets more and more every day, and it's not even like on a month by month basis. They're always coming out with better graphics, every week, every day. So you never know where it can go from there.
What I think is really going to take off first, actually, is the horror games, like Outlast and games like Amnesia. There's a whole bunch of them. You can find them on YouTube if you just look up Oculus Rift horror game. People are already playing them with the dev kits, which aren't even full. You still have that mesh screen look to them, and people are just terrified.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely see horror games getting way too real. Especially when it comes to the Enderman and stuff like that. You turn around and he's right there, and you're like, shit your pants. Oh, that's gonna be crazy too. That's a whole new generation of just being scared crazy. I can already tell that. Yeah.
I'll see if I can find the guy's channel that I watched. But he plays a ton of scary games with the Oculus Rift on, and I think he's from Ireland, and just the mix of him being completely terrified out of his mind and his Irish accent is just amazing. It's like some of the best videos you can watch on YouTube.
Yeah. All right. Well, it seems we're at a wrapping up point for the show. I think we covered a lot of interesting materials for our first show.
No, I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure you go visit snaptocover.com for more info about all the things that we've talked about today. Community news, chatter, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, snaptocover with a number 2, to receive news and updates. If you have something you'd like to discuss on the show, or if you'd just like to leave us a comment, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for putting the podcast together. It sounds like it's going to be an awesome set of topic, nice little change of pace from the tabletop gaming stuff. So it's cool to have a new perspective on the website.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm more than happy to do it. It's a lot of fun. And let's hope that we can have many more successful shows.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been Jeff and Dan. We are the Panoptic Gamers.